Welcome in, guys. This is episode 13 of the Altitude Problems podcast. I'm your host, Big Country, and this is my partner, PB. How are we doing this week, PB?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, doing great, man. Chugging along, almost
Almost to
to
the
football,
start
man.
of the NFL season.
T-minus what, 3 weeks? Or
I think it's 3, and then we start.
either way, let's get straight into it. I don't know if you caught today, but we saw the Rockies take a series win over the D-Bags, their fourth total rubber match victory, which is a little depressing, to be honest with you. But it is what it is. Glad to see it happen. We saw Zach Veen hit a homer today. His first game back up from the big leagues, from the minors, since last year. Extremely happy for him. Glad he found his place. He got committed and truly seen a better version of himself. And then I don't know if you saw, but we saw Brett Sullivan hit a 3-run homer off the foul pole to really open things up today. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely saw that, and I saw Zach Veen go yard, which was a lot of fun to see for sure.
Yeah, Veen's a stud, dude. I mean, I love how like every post that you see of Veen, immediately it's just like roids because the transformation he had from last year to this year is just, it looks like a completely different player. Not saying he's doing it, but he does make a compelling argument. So excited to see that. I know they dropped 2 out of 3 against the Cards, but now they're 3-3 on the road for this 9-game road stand on the away stand. I don't know how you could really say it, but either way, I would, if this team could somehow get to 70 wins, I would think that would be an awesome mark to have, and I think that's what they're kind of striving for. Basically playing 500 baseball after the All-Star break. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely would be really nice. A really big switch up from last year's results. And so obviously we just hope to keep seeing things improve and, eventually, hopefully make it back to that Rocktober.
Dude, I mean, that'd be awesome. Do I think it's happening next year? No, but we're climbing the mountain either way. I don't know if you saw it today, so you probably weren't watching the game too closely. But the Rockies got out of 3 straight innings where they had 3 guys on with 2 outs. They
Dang,
stranded
yeah.
him and only allowed 1 run in 3 innings with bases loaded in each inning. So tremendous, effort by the bullpen. But I also read a stat that we walked 8 guys in 3 innings, and that's just inexcusable. So,
Yeah, definitely not something you want to see continue.
No, especially when you got a team like the Diamondbacks. They're pretty hot right now. I don't know if you know that, but they're kind of trying to get into the wild card. So stealing, honestly, 2 out of 3, kind of playing like the spoiler a little bit. Obviously early in August, but kind of feels good when you can do it against a rival.
Yeah, definitely.
But do you have anything to update on like F1?
No racing. We're in that big gap. There isn't going to be another race till August 24th, something like that, 23rd. So we're kind of just in a big gap, waiting a long time, kind of going to see what ends up changing. Nothing major, kind of just waiting and seeing what's going to happen next with especially the teams that are looking to make those bigger upgrades. This is kind of that big gap in the season where you can make a lot of changes. So we'll see what happens next.
Yeah, should be fun to follow and watch. But let's get straight into NFL news. Let's kind of start off right off the bat with kind of a big one that we saw earlier in the week as we're recording on Wednesday, August 12th.
2012th. Yeah.
We saw Kyler get announced as QB1. Kind of feels kind of early in camp now.
Yeah, it definitely does feel a bit early in camp. You thought maybe they would give him a couple preseason games. I guess they showed Kyler must have shown something to prove that he is QB1 over the rest of those guys. Obviously, you feel a bit for JJ McCarthy. And he still said he would love to stay in Minnesota regardless of whether or not he's starting. He loves the place, and so we'll just have to see him compete. It's not over just because you already lost the QB1 job. It's Kyler's to lose now, so we'll just see. If he's actually worthy of that QB1 spot, or if maybe they just want to have light some sort of fire under JJ McCarthy to have him eventually step back into that role and really be who they expected him to be in that pick a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna hate on JJ McCarthy, but like it just feels like he's not ready. He's only had 1 year basically in the big leagues, you could say. And he has shown flashes where you like kind of see that like raw potential. But at the same time, he all he had to do was hand it off in college. He didn't really have to play quarterback, make adjustments up the line. So I feel like, take another step back, another year, where you can probably learn a little bit from Kyler. Kyler's been doing it for, 4 or 5 years now. But, a lot of teams just don't go with the strategy of, wait and let the other guy, learn. And I feel like I'm a big advocate for that considering a Packers fan and my team's done it successfully. But I don't know if Kyler's gonna, get a big contract out of this next offseason, Sam Darnold did in the same way. But I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm scared of the Vikings, but I'm scared more with Kyler Murray at the helm though.
Yeah, and I think Kyler also offers, two different threats on while he's on the field, being able to run the ball and throw the ball. And he's definitely a more efficient runner than JJ McCarthy is. So I think that, especially given that their run game is kind of a little weak right now, you have Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones. They're both okay. Neither one of them has stood out. You went and drafted a guy late in the sixth round. You're hoping that maybe he ends up producing something, but that's more so for the future. So right now, I do think it kind of makes more sense to have Kyler there, kind of to have a little bit more of a run threat, which could help ease the passing game a lot more. And obviously, when you have someone like Justin Jefferson, if you can find any type of a gap in that passing game, it's going to be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, Green Bay is gonna have a tough. I feel like it will be a tough Week 1 matchup because you're kind of going to be seeing like a whole different style of the Vikings offense that we I don't think we've really ever seen the Vikings have that like mobile threat. And then, I think it's another like, just question for Green Bay's defense without Micah Parsons for the first 6 weeks. Obviously he's gonna be gone for this game. Then you have a whole new system with Jonathan Gannon coming from Arizona. So that's gonna be interesting too. So you think he'd have the book out on Kyler Murray. You think. But
Yeah.
either way, from a fantasy standpoint, I don't see like a crazy uptick in value for for Justin. Maybe a little bit for Addison, Hawkinson, maybe a little bit. Nothing like like crazy move the needle, jump him up the boards. I don't know. What do you think?
I do think that it is pretty big for Hawkinson in particular. We've seen a lot of success from Trey McBride over the few recent years, so we know that Kyler Murray does like dumping it off to his tight ends. And I think that we didn't really see much chemistry between JJ and Hawkinson. We saw a really big fall off in Hawkinson, and obviously a lot of it did have to do with injuries and whatnot. But I do think that this is going to be a good thing for Hawkinson, especially with how much Kyler rolls out. I think that helps a lot of those short inside the first 10-yard kind of routes, and that's going to be a lot of where Hawkinson's lying rather than deep. So I think that for fantasy purposes, this is going to boost Hawkinson's stock at least a little bit.
Yeah, and a lot of people have said that the Vikings could have like one of the best like kind of like trio at wide receiver because it's not just Addison, Hawkinson, and Justin Jefferson. They also have the guy from the Niners, um, Juwan Jennings. That's a
Yeah,
pretty solid pickup for a wide receiver 3, which would probably be most wide receiver 2 on most teams. I'd probably
right.
say, or at
Yeah,
least
I
half.
agree.
So the Vikings, what to see, and no one thought uh, Sam Darnold would go 14-3. So see how Kyler does. He's in a tough division. He came from a tough division, so we'll wait and see. Let's move on to another NFC North. This is not Josh Jacobs, obviously, but you know what?
We
It
got
doesn't
Eddie
have his
Lacy
number
back.
right. It doesn't even have his face nor the arms. Maybe the tattoos. But we got word today or a couple days ago that Schefter put out a little word that said like Josh Jacobs might get suspended. We just don't know how much, when it's going to happen, but it's almost likely. So fantasy owners, fantasy managers, looks like Marshawn Lloyd's looking a little sexier right now. What you say?
Yeah, as a dynasty owner of Marshawn Lloyd, I think this is really, really big news because not only is he finally going to get the reps that he's been missing in the last few years, but with Josh Jacobs getting older, obviously this will furthermore kind of start to push him kind of further and further into that starting role as time goes on. So if he does end up getting suspended, this will be Marshawn Lloyd's chance to shine. And he has been looking pretty solid in camp. They haven't been overworking him, it sounds like. They've been kind of just,
Careful.
easing him back in there really carefully, but he still looks like he's been healthy. He's been getting some had a lot of bursts, really explosive runs. So definitely really good for dynasty owners in particular. I don't know that other than the first couple weeks, he's going to have much value for regular leagues. Obviously, the first few weeks, he's going to have a decent amount of value, but unless he really, really excels in those first few weeks to where for some immaculate reason, he really, really starts to eat into Josh Jacobs' reps, after that, whatever that suspension may be, his value is going to fall off pretty hard in regular leagues. But in Dynasty, it definitely is really big, especially if you're just stashing him and you have a little bit of room on your team. He definitely will be serviceable for a few weeks, and then even in the future, he has some potential now if he's going to be getting some reps. So really big there for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I also think it's kind of worth noting that like Green Bay is not the typical front office or team to usually excuse this type of thing. Usually if like word comes out, evidence comes out, they'll cut ties. And it's also worth noting that Josh Jacobs isn't worth shit on the cap if we do release him. So that being said, he does get suspended. I think there's a very likely chance that the Packers just cut ties with him, and it's the Marshawn Lloyd
Really,
reverse book show.
yeah, yeah, that
I
could be
mean,
really
that's
big.
my take. Truthfully, I would love to see a duo of Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd. Kind of like that 1-2 combo where you have the brute force and then the actual speed. But I think there's so many variables in the Packers offense, and the fact that Marshawn Lloyd is made of glass and Josh Jacobs doesn't know how to keep his hands to himself. Um, it's just a huge question mark for fantasy. So be wary. I don't know if you saw this, but kind of like Packers related. Um, so the NFL rivals uniforms are about to come out in I want to say 2 weeks from today, and the Packers released a teaser, and it's like an all black like photo. I swear to God, if the Packers roll out with an all black uniform, that's just disgusting. Like it's one thing when you do throwback, but I mean this is kind of a hot take and just how Nike controls uniforms. They do it with the MLB too, but I feel like it's ruining it. I really do. I hate City Connect for MLB, and I hate these rival uniforms for the NFL because no one likes them. They all look like fucking shit, and it's just like, why? We had so many good things going, great alternates, and we just get rid of them because we have a new partnership.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I definitely miss the old alternates, and the old style that we used to have. We had a lot more feels like variety nowadays. It feels like because, like you said, they're all themed and based on sponsorships. They're all just too similar to each other, just
yeah,
different
like
colors.
why would it even make sense for the Packers to roll out a black uniform
Yeah,
for rival? Make a cheese helmet and go all yellow. I don't give a fuck then. You throw in black, that's where I lose it. That's where I lost
yeah,
it. So I'm hoping not. We're gonna be wearing them against the first matchup against the Bears at home, so I'll be sick. But other than that, I really had no interest in looking at them. Let's get into the next one. that's
what happened to
that's not
Shador?
Shador either, guys. But it's number 12, and he doesn't even wear 12. He wears two.
Here's two now. Yeah,
But we saw Deshaun has been confirmed that he's going to be getting the first start preseason game one. Shador will get preseason game number two. Do you think this is kind of indicative of maybe what Monken is going to go with for the start of the season?
I think it's. I think it goes. I think the only thing it really goes to show is he really doesn't know yet. Um, More than anything, I think he like, and I've been saying this, I think a big part of that Browns organization just wants to hold Shadur back. So I think even if Shadur has looked better in training camp, and obviously Deshaun Watson has had his occasional days where he looks pretty good, but overall Shadur has looked better in training camp, and they still don't want to solidify him as a starter. They've listed him as co-starters, giving him each game. So I think he just doesn't want to officially name Shadur a starter. Even if he knows he's better. So I think he's going to give Deshaun Watson a chance to prove himself first in this preseason game. And then, obviously, if they end up putting Shadur in anyways, it's not going to show you much because he's going against even, third stringers, fourth stringers, not even backups at that point. But then that second game, if Deshaun Watson really doesn't end up impressing you that much, then you just have to have Shadur have a relatively good game and just prove to you, yeah, he definitely should be the starter. So I just feel like that Browns camp, just for whatever reason, they just want to hold him back. They don't want to officially give him that starting job. So that's why they've named him co-starters for now. But I guess we'll just have to see how these preseason games play out.
Yeah. I mean, I think something I'm also missing sometimes is like, sometimes you're just financially obligated to throw in the guy that you're fucking paying guaranteed money to. You know, I'm not saying that's the reason, but it could be an underlying reason. Like, hey, we're paying this dude 35 million no matter what. We might as well see him snap his Achilles one more time, and throw in Shador because there's literally no risk with Shador. It's only upside,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah,
It's
that's true.
literally only downside and a small upside if you start Shador. So it's just like, ah, fuck it. The Browns are a shit organization. There's a reason why they never
Yeah, they
win.
are.
And as CU fans, CU alums, I want to see Shador start, but like Cass said, it's almost like they're out for blood for him. And that's including the NFL in general too. It's weird. Their social media loves him. No one else. like,
Yeah.
feel like they fucking hate this guy. As soon as this dude gets a little bit of like entitlement and somewhat of a voice, bro, they just hate this dude.
Yeah, I mean, I personally never bought the hype that he was going to be a first round pick, and I always thought that if he did end up being a first round pick, it would have been ridiculous. But seeing him fall down to the fifth round was definitely a shock, and definitely felt like the NFL was targeting him because he definitely feels like and felt like at that time, an accurate representation would have been third, maybe early fourth round.
The thing about that is like I go back and you're just like, how wasn't he drafted in the first,
Especially
second,
when
or
you see
third?
Dylan Gabriel
Bro,
get
get like
picked.
Dylan Gabriel had a hell of a season at Oregon. But
Yeah,
who held almost like every freaking passing leading stat? It was Shador.
right.
Yeah, it was a slightly weaker conference in the Big Ten. It's better than the ACC, though, in my opinion. And that's what Cam Ward played it. In my opinion, Cam Ward never looked like the number one overall pick. He never looked truly better than Shador, in my opinion. I really didn't. I thought Shador was honestly more accurate. I just thought the only thing that held him back was his dad and partially his attitude. To be honest with you, thinking he was like the shit, and his shit didn't stay. Turns out it
Yeah,
did.
I mean, I think there were certainly a lot of aspects that I feel like kind of dropped him lower in the draft. I wasn't too surprised to see him drop, but I was surprised to see him drop as far as he did. By no means do I think that he was as low quality as what the NFL teams ended up making him out to be in that draft.
There's no way. There's absolutely no way. Obviously Jackson Dart had his flashes last year. Cam Ward had his flashes. They all played like fucking shit though. So, hey, look who made the Pro Bowl. Anyways, as far as like fantasy goes, I mean, looks like the Browns are going to go with some rookie wide receivers, to start, and then they're going to throw in Jerry Booty. Truthfully, I don't think any quarterback really moves the needle that much. You're not going to get that much production out of really either quarterback. I feel like the throw line's not the greatest. Quinshon Judson is going to be coming back from injury from last year, so I'm have to wait and see. Guess you could say. I mean, unless short tears up week one
Yeah,
and
I
two, I don't
mean,
know. You got an easier
yeah,
schedule.
I'm not too big on anyone from Cleveland besides maybe Harold Fannin.
Yeah,
Harold Fannin was a absolute monster in PPR leagues, just getting target after target. Whether it was Shadur or whoever was back there, he was getting plenty of targets. He knows how to get open, and the system seemed to work really well with him. He's really athletic, really big. So honestly, everyone else other than Harold Fannin in Cleveland is kind of a toss-up. And even the nice thing about Harold Fannin is because Cleveland is in such a shit situation, you can actually get some pretty solid value out of Harold Fannin right now. I think he's falling like around 10, 11, something like that in 12 people leagues, or maybe
Yeah.
10. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, best of luck to the Browns. They're gonna need it. Literally. So, and truthfully, I don't think Todd Munkins is the answer at coach. That seems like every single coach that they bring in, they always make the wrong decision. So,
yeah, I've never really been confident in their coach decisions.
no, dude. It's just I like Stefanski for the first couple of years with Baker, bro. But that organization fucked over Baker so bad.
Yeah,
So,
they did.
so I'm hoping what's up, but let's talk a little bit of Luther Burden. I know you've been pretty high on him throughout the offseason. But looks like he is a little banged up. I don't know. Did it look like he was going to be missing the first um, couple weeks of the season or no?
No, he's not going to miss any games in the regular season. He just will be missing up until through the beginning of the season. So no preseason work for him, no training camp, preseason games, all that kind of stuff. But this is the good thing about um, Luther Burden in this situation is it was his rookie last year. Last year, he still got a lot of time, even a lot of playing time, even with the receivers that were in front of him. We only saw him on the field maybe like average 50% of the snaps. So he still got kind of like that basic work behind him. So I think this year, as long as he's on the field, he's going to be ready to make that big step. And this gives a lot of young players like Xavier Mitchell, who is that guy they drafted who runs a 4.28 40, to kind of, show off their talent in preseason. Xavier Mitchell also has a slight injury, but it sounds like he won't be missing significant time. So they're hoping he'll be back for that first preseason game so they can see what he's got. So they have a lot of young receivers that they kind of want to see some stuff out of. We'll see how they do. I think Luther Burden, thankfully, because he got those snaps last year, he'll be all right, missing the last bit of the preseason work this year. But obviously, it still sucks to, be knocked out of that role.
Yeah, I mean, and truthfully, reports are saying he's hopeful to play in week 1, just so you know. But if he's not good to go, you're going to be highly relying on, Rome and Khalifa Raymond as your wide
Colston
receiver
Loveland.
3. Colson
Colston
Loveland, yeah,
Loveland has been
but
big.
you can't make your whole entire offense around one tight end or two with Cole Kmet. I'm not saying the Bears are going to struggle offensively. They got one of the best offensive minds in Ben Johnson, but you also have one of the quarterbacks with the lowest completion rate last year. Everyone's hyping this dude up, Madden cover, everything. He makes some highlight plays, but he digs himself into holes, and he miraculously came out of them. That's not going to happen. More and more time you see film on a guy. So, and fuck the
That
Bears
well,
once again.
that same guy also though, he starts to learn from his mistakes and he starts to learn how not to put himself in those holes and how not to get in those situations.
I mean, we'll have to see
That's
on
I
him.
I I used to think the same actually. That's exactly how I felt about Patrick Mahomes back in the day, especially as a Broncos fan, because I used to see him make those ridiculous plays. He'd be scrambling backwards and then he'd just launch it down the field, and Tyreek Hill would just be open by some miracle and he'd make crazy plays out of it. So I was like, there's no way that Patrick Mahomes, lasts if he plays like this. But Patrick Mahomes adapted. He went and stopped making those mistakes. He became a much smarter individual. He's a much smarter quarterback nowadays. Makes the smarter plays. So as long as Caleb Williams makes those adjustments, he can definitely still be that guy with the athletic ability that he has.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I remember watching this dude warm up when he was at USC against the Buffs, and there's like, holy shit. I understand why he's the first overall pick, just on
Yeah,
talent alone. He could have lost that game, but the amount of throws he made during the game too solidified himself for me. But he in all 3 games against Green Bay, he looked good for literally 5 minutes out of each game. That's it. Truthfully, you're like sitting there, I was like, oh, okay. You can play
yeah,
55 minutes, and that's what I never understood about the NFL is how they have rules in place for teams to literally come back in the game. That's about it. You stop the clock in the fourth, It's what, 5 minutes left? You got out of bounds. Why is that? They want these. They want comebacks. They want money. They want bullshit, bro. And that's where comebacks come from. Your team fed off that heavily last year. It felt like you guys were always
You
down
got to know
somehow in
how
the
to
fourth.
finish games. It's one of the
Yeah,
most
but like
important aspects of the game.
I think I'm not saying I'm annoyed that Green Bay lost those games because of those rules. Because obviously there's things that went on in the game that definitely impacted the rest of the game. But let's not disregard the notion that the NFL does have these rules in place for a reason.
Yeah, sure, but
It helps them
you definitely you
tremendously.
prepare for those situations too. So as a good defense, you got to know how to stop those situations.
Oh, what did you guys come back against the Giants? How many points in the fourth quarter?
We were down 20, I think. I don't remember what the exact score was
It's
though.
ridiculous.
It was either 20 or we were down 18. It was something like that. But yeah.
I mean, yeah. Either way,
Yeah, it's all about it's
um,
and a big part of it too is game management, clock management, understanding situational football. When you need to run the ball, when you need to force the ball down the field, if you need to go for it in certain downs, if you need to kick field goals instead of go for touchdowns, all that kind of stuff. So I think, I do agree it is put in place to make games more chaotic, more fun in the end, but it is certainly another aspect of the game still, and one that the best teams know how to manage the end of the games.
Bears though. I hate when these fuckers have a little bit of confidence, man. We're gonna put them back in their place, just like we always do. And I saw a blasphemous take by FanDuel Sportsbook earlier this week. It had Caleb Williams above Jared Goff and Jordan Love. Get the fuck out of here, dude. I'm sorry. He wasn't that good last year. We're hyping this dude up way too much just because he won one playoff game. So,
Was Jordan Love
anyways,
that good though?
Jordan Love's a dog. If you look at the stats of Jordan Love, he's one of the best. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. People just
I
don't
ain't a
like to say
stat
it.
watcher.
The stats are the game. The stats are how you perform.
Stats only show a part of the game.
You could argue and say Jordan Love was up 4 scores against the Bears. How the fuck did that just disappear?
Good question.
Shitty ass defense and
How did
horrible clock management by his fucking head coach Matt LaFleur.
he also has some input on how you can manage that clock, so it's also partially his fault.
I mean, yes, he does have input, but at the same time, decisions are made by the head coach too. That defensive coordinator. What the fuck are we doing? I don't know how you got hired in Miami after he didn't win a single game in the final 5 games of that season because his defense was so shit because of one player being gone and some other guys. But still. Hey, mark my words on Green Bay. We're gonna be back on top. Take it now. NFC North champs, and we're gonna make it to the divisional. Not gonna say we're gonna win. Tired of being the 7th seed. I truly don't think there's that much of a difference between any team in the NFC North. I think it's really up for the taking. I don't think the Bears are any better than Green Bay or the Lions. I think it's gonna be really tight race.
We shall see.
Yeah, we shall see. But alrighty. Well, anyways, this is episode 12. We're kind of gonna wrap it up here, guys. Pat, you got any Denver sports facts of the week? I think James haven't done one in a while.
I guess not a sports fact, but I'll just throw in a little training camp note, maybe help fantasy managers a little bit. Pat Bryant has been sparking it up in training camp. He has been one of the better receivers so far in training camp. Kind of one of the guys that's been standing out really big. So he has not been officially listed as wide receiver 3 over Troy Franklin just yet. Looks like he didn't quite do enough throughout training camp, but obviously we still have a bit of preseason. He may or may not play just because he has such a solidified position already, but he is a name to watch out for sure, especially in Dynasty.
In Dynasty, for sure. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. If we haven't mentioned it already, watch out for Zach Veen. These final 2 months of the year for the Rockies. He very well might be a starting center. That's a very starting outfielder.
Right fielder. Yeah.
Next year. The Rockies.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thanks for tuning in. This is episode 12. And you guys have a great week.
Peace.
Peace.